Good morning, everybody. We'll give it a few more seconds here and then we'll get this show started. All right, we'll go ahead and we'll get started here. Good morning, everybody. My name is Joshua Boatman, and I'm the Regional Technology Director for the Ohio Valley region. And in today's daily command training, we're going to go over campaigns within command. So specifically, we're going to cover social ad campaigns, more specifically Facebook. And then we're also going to cover social posts as well within command. And then if we have enough time there at the end, we'll kind of talk about direct mail and or email as well. But the social aspect of the campaigns and command seems to be the most popular. So that's kind of what we're going to touch on initially. So I'm going to go ahead and attempt to share my screen. And if at any point you guys have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and shout them out, type them in the chat, raise your hand, whatever makes the most sense to you. And we'll try to address those questions as they come. So here you can see we're already logged into command. We're on the main command screen. And if you've attended any of my training, you know the first thing that I'm really going to point out is the red KW in the upper left-hand corner. I think this is one of the most important things just to know, especially if you're new to command. It'll help you easily locate and identify the various applets. So if we click the red KW, it's going to expand the applet list so you can actually see the names of each individual applet. So today we're going to spend the majority of our time within campaigns. So we're going to go ahead and jump in there. So as I kind of mentioned earlier, campaigns is where you're going to use command to do a lot of different things. Here you can use it to run paid ads, whether that's via Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Google Word ads. Here you're going to be able to send out emails to your clients. Now, the thing with the emails to the clients, it's a little bit different. Some people prefer to use smart plans to do that. Some people prefer to use campaigns. Both pretty much accomplish the same thing. Direct mail is going to be your ability to send out your actual direct mail postcards to your clients. So if you have that just listed, that just sold, and you want to send that out to your farm, you'll be able to do that from within direct mail. In addition to that, what's really cool about the direct mail system is that you can actually design your own postcards and then send them out as well. So they just don't have to be just listed or just sold. You know, they can be pretty much for anything you want. What's really cool about our relationship with the company Real Mailers is that we basically get the best deal possible when you're sending out postcards. So for a standard size two-sided color postcard, including first class postage, it's 59 cents a postcard. So when you think that first class postage is what, like 55 cents, I think this day and age, you're basically paying 4 cents just to have a postcard printed. So it's pretty cool. And then social post is going to be where we can schedule posts in the future for your Facebook and or your Twitter, right? So kind of keeping that in mind. So if you're kind of one of those agents and you aren't very great at social media, or you're constantly forgetting to post something to your Facebook business page, social posts is where you can kind of schedule those things going forward. So you can maybe time block out a time on a Sunday or a Monday or whatever makes the most sense, and then schedule out the next 3 or 4 social posts. So as we kind of go across the top here, when we click on each section, this is going to take us into the actual section for those particular campaigns, right? So if we, paid ads here, you can see I don't have any actually created yet. We're actually going to do that. Emails will take us in and we can see any of the emails that we have sent out, our email total with our command email, which can indicate to us how many emails can we send out. One of the things to keep in mind with email sent through command, everyone gets access to command email, which allows you to send up to 5,000 emails a month for free. If you intend to send more than that, you will have to upgrade your account. Direct mail is just going to show us the list of all the different direct mail postcards that we may have worked on, that we may have sent. And then, of course, social posts will take us into where we can kind of see if we have anything scheduled going forward, or if we wanted to schedule something on a specific day. You do not have to be in any particular section to start that campaign. So if I come in the upper right-hand corner and I click Create Campaign, it is going to prompt me to pick which type of campaign do I want. So initially, we're going to start with the social ad paid. So this is going to bring up our social campaign modal, right? Our social ad. And this is where we can start to design and build this thing out. So the first thing we always want to take note of is when we enter a campaign name, we want to make sure it's something that we can identify what this campaign is about. Is it about a particular listing, right? If it is, I would highly recommend you type in that listing's name, right? You can even throw the word listing on it. Are you advertising a brand awareness event? Like, right, are you trying to maybe just advertise a first-time home buyer seminar that you're hosting? Identify it that way as well. So that way, when leads start to come into Command, you're going to be able to identify where those leads came from. So it's very, very important. Generally, no one else is going to see the campaign name except you. So just make sure you're judicious with how you're identifying it. And then the next step here is going to be your goal. So in general, the goals really don't do much outside of one. So if you do advertise listing, that is immediately going to prompt you to select a potential listing. If you if you select advertise multiple listings, you will have the ability on the next screen to select multiple different listings within the single campaign. Everything else is just more for tracking purposes. So the idea behind it is that if you're doing a brand awareness, identify it as a brand awareness. And then on the back end, as you imagine here at Keller Williams, one of the most amazing things we do is we track everything, right? We track everything, we track success. So that way we can kind of see if you're doing a brand awareness and you're getting a lot of leads generated off of that, we can analyze that ad, figure out why it's doing such a great job, and then hopefully provide that information and that feedback to everyone else so they can increase their brand awareness ads. So just kind of keep that in mind. You do have to select one, but inevitably the only two that make any difference is the advertised listing and the advertised multiple listing. And that's just going to be because of the prompts it gives you. So for us, let's say we're going to advertise our listing and we're just going to select advertise listing here, right? And then the next thing down below is going to be, we're going to determine what channels, what social media channels are we wanting this listing to run, this ad to run. A couple things to keep in mind. You can run it on a Facebook and a Instagram within the same ad campaign itself. Since Facebook owns Instagram, you can build an ad that will also run on Facebook and Instagram simultaneously. If you want it to run on Twitter, let me check this one. If you want to run it on Twitter, you would have to run that ad separately, right? You can't run an ad on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter all from within the same campaign. You're going to have to create that Twitter campaign separately. So just kind of keep that in mind. For our purposes, we're just going to do Facebook today. And actually, before I jump even any further, one thing that will be required for you to run a Facebook campaign or an Instagram campaign would be a Facebook business page. If you do not have a business page, you're definitely going to need to create one first. That's how Facebook basically sets up the Facebook ad manager, is via your business page. Just keep in mind, you have to have a personal profile. You have to have a Facebook account, and then you can create generally as many business pages as you want. If you have questions on how to build a business page, definitely reach out to your MCTT, that's your market center tech trainer located within your market center. They can absolutely help you out with that. If you don't know who your MCTT is, reach out to your MCA and or your TL, and they should be able to point you in the right direction. So we're going to go ahead and click Create Campaign. So the first thing it's going to do, it's going to pop up a list, and it's going to try to show me all of my currently active listings. And this is where I would select the appropriate listing that I want to tie to this particular campaign. If for some reason my listings aren't showing up and I know I have an active listing, sometimes we do have that issue, you can easily drop this down on the right-hand side where it says show only my listing and select all listings. This is also beneficial in another way as well. Say you're a new agent and you don't currently have any active listings. Talk to another agent within your market center that may have those active listings and say, hey, I'd love to run a campaign on one of your listings. If you can get their permission, which most of them generally will, because, hey, they're not spending the money to run this campaign and it's advertising their listing, you can then select pretty much any listing that way. As long as you have permission of the listing agent, you can run a campaign on their listing. So one of the really neat things I always kind of like to point out here, just to show you the power of Command and our integration across the country. If you look right now in Command, we have, what is that, over 1.4 million active listings. And that's because we are tied into every MLS across the country. With our various relationships and the spread of our market centers, that's the access we have through the KWLS and the power of Command in a sense. I think that's such an amazing thing to think about. So in this case, I'm just going to pull up a bogus listing that I kind of use for my classes. Actually, let me switch it. And here we are, North Orbison. So I'm just copy that. I'm going to select this. This is always my favorite listing to use. If you've been in any of my classes where I've mentioned it, it's because it's kind of just this really small, tiny house in the city that I live in. And they chose to spend the extra money to do the Twilight photo on the front photo. It's just, I think that is just such a hilarious thing. When you first select your listing, it's going to pop up the little Kelly guide, the guided tour here, where Gary's going to try to walk you through everything. But we're not going to use this because I'm just going to kind of walk you through those steps. But just know that that's always available to you by clicking the guided tour option in the upper right-hand corner. If you're doing this later on your own and you're kind of stuck, go ahead and click that, and it kind of will walk you through that entire process. So I'm going to go ahead and click skip. So the first thing I always want to jump to and point out is over here on the right-hand side, you're now going to see, we're going to slowly start to see what our ad looks like. This is what the Facebook ad is going to look like just based upon what we have selected from the listing ad. Or from the listing itself, right? It pulled the property description, right? The marketing remarks, and it selected that front photo of the listing. The other thing to really note here is if you look above the ad, you're going to see this drop down. And this drop down is going to allow you to adjust the preview so you can kind of see what the ad looks like on different devices. So the web feed is typically what the ad's going to look like on someone's desktop computer or laptop, right? Those screens are generally bigger. When the ad appears within Facebook, it's going to look like this. But we have this option to drop this down and select the mobile view. Now, this is what the ad will look like on a mobile device. So if you can imagine, this is someone holding their phone, and this is what the ad looks like as they're scrolling through Facebook. I always recommend that you build your ads mobile first. I wouldn't worry too much about what the web feed shows, right? The vast majority of people, I'm sure there are people that are on Facebook on their computers, I'm sure, and on their laptops, but the vast majority of people who are on Facebook, the majority of the time, are on mobile devices. So I always recommend you build it mobile first because you want your ad to look as best as it possibly can on this screen. The next thing, as we kind of work through this process over here on the left-hand side, you're going to see the first thing is name and goal, and you're going to see this has a green check. This is because we set that up on the initial screen. As we go through each section, you're going to see green check marks, and you're not going to see green check marks. We need to make sure everything has a green check mark before we can actually publish the campaign. If for some reason I misspelled the name or I wanted to switch the goal versus starting over, I can easily drop this down. And now I'm going to go ahead and just update this with the proper address, right, for my listing. And I could, of course, rotate and change the different goals. The only thing I cannot do is if I started it out as advertising a single listing from within this campaign, I can't switch it to multiple listings. if I want to run a multiple listing campaign, I would need to start over and select that from the beginning. And that just has to do with the way it helps us select various listings. Now, the next section here is, of course, it's going to indicate where we selected our listing. If for some reason I selected the wrong listing, it's simple enough. Just hit change listing. It's going to bring up that same modal. I can start searching for the appropriate listing and select the new one. Now, the next section here we're going to talk about is the text. So as we click configure here, you're going to see it's the text that came over from the marketing remarks itself. Now, the one thing to note with these various sections, these are tied to different parts of the ad. So the main copy is going to appear over here on the right-hand side. The headline is indicated right here. The description is going to appear below the headline, right? So kind of keep that in mind. As we type this in, you're actually going to see it change live on the right-hand side. The other thing to note is that with each section, there is a character limit, right? So for the actual main copy, you can only go 250 characters. For the headline, it's 25 characters. For the description, it's 250 as well. I would highly recommend you keep this in mind and you try to stay away from going for the full 250. Because as you can kind of see on the mobile view, even though there's that 250 character limit, at one point you're going to run so much text across that it's not going to be able to display. So you can easily start adjusting this. So we can sit there and say adorable 2-bedroom home with a 1-car garage. We'll have Grammarly fix that. And let's just say, let's go through this. You'll love this eat-in kitchen with new gorgeous oak cabinets, blah, blah, blah. We can kind of start to change this. Now, one of the neat things that I always like to point out is we have this little smiley face. This is where you can actually use emojis. So one of the things that is kind of interesting is that they have shown that Facebook ads with emojis have a 70% higher click rate. So one of the things that I would sit there and say, I would like to do, and sometimes with my ads, I like to use emojis when possible. So I would sit there and say, you know what? 2-bedroom. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do a search for the check mark. Check. Whoop. Right here. We'll go through here and we can sit there and say 1-car garage. Check. And of course, with emojis, once you put one in, you can copy and paste it like any text. So all I did here is I highlighted it. I did the Control-C, or I believe it's Command or C or something like that if you're on a Mac. I don't know why you're on a Mac. I'm just kidding. We can sit there and do, spacious eat-in kitchen, and then we can do new gorgeous oak cabinets. All the updates have already been done. And then maybe I'll do like a little celebration. Right. And as you can see, as we're building it out, they're seeing the text, they're seeing the different emojis, and I'm keeping it all well within the range so it doesn't look like it's running off the page. When it comes to Facebook ads, especially, less is typically more. People don't want to read a wall of text, right? So the more you can integrate emojis and things that are going to draw people to it, the better. The headline can be move in ready. Now, one of the tricks, if you can notice that there is no actual way for us to put an emoji here, they don't have the little face here. But if you put an emoji on any one of these boxes, we can highlight it and we can copy and paste that in. And then, of course, we have the description. We can sit there. Well, no, what's really cool about the description section, they actually have some suggestions here for us, right? So we have, you could be coming home to this. If we click shuffle, schedule a private tour with me today, we can click shuffle. view photos and videos of this home, whatever, it makes sense. There's a couple that it'll rotate through. So if you're stuck trying to think of something and you just want to use what's there, just go ahead and click use suggestion, and you're going to see that it pops it in right there. And that's pretty much it, right? We can sit there, and if we can even throw in, another emoji there, right? Let's put as many emojis in there as we possibly can. Pretty simple, right? And then if we're happy with this text, we can go ahead and hit save. Now, I want to take a moment that you're going to notice that there is this little link down here at the bottom. It says, make sure you review the advertising policies for Facebook. This just basically says, hey, make sure that you're not doing anything negative. You're not trying to sell anything negative. You're not doing anything derogatory. You're not violating fair housing in any way. You're not trying to sell weapons, firearms, drugs, anything illicit or illegal. So just remember, when you're building up your ad text, treat this just as if you were doing something for fair housing, right? Every time you advertise anything about a property, you always think fair housing first, and just make sure that you're not violating fair housing in any way. Pretty simple. So if we're happy with this, we're just going to click save, and we got our little green check mark. Now, because we selected the listing, it actually under the media section already has a green check mark, right? But let's jump into this real quick and let's kind of dive a little bit deeper into what are some of our options. So within the media, we can either do images or video. So one of the neat things we can do is we can add up to 5 different images for this Facebook ad. So if I click add more, it's actually going to give me a couple different ways to add images. I can choose additional ones from the listing. I can upload images either from my computer, or if I utilized designs to build and design my own branded listing image, right? If you were in my class yesterday, we kind of talked about that. You could actually select that and browse that and pull that from designs. So that way, instead of just the standard photo, it could have your logo integrated and some branding that is going to continue to draw people to you and identify this as your listing because it's using your color scheme, whatever makes the most sense. And you can upload those directly from designs. So if we were to choose from the listing, we can kind of go through here. And I always like to select the she shed, right? And let's select the bedroom, and you know what, look at that washer and dryer room. That's an amazing, everyone wants to see where the washer and dryer goes. And we can just go ahead and preview and crop. Oh, actually we got to do it one by one. So let's do this one. We'll say now we have the ability to adjust this. And now we can actually kind of change some of this a little bit as well. So we can do the wide if we want. But if you can do it within the square, that is going to make the most sense for most placements for most of the ads. So let's save that. Let's add one more, and let's do the she shed. Preview and crop it. Make sure we get that she shed in there. Perfect. And as you can see, as we're adding these images, it's starting to build this out. If we want to delete an image, we can delete it, just that simple. Now, what's really awesome about adding multiple images in with these campaigns specifically is Facebook has an algorithm, right? That what it will do is it will process and show this ad with each image first, right? So over the course of when you scheduled your ad, say it's a 10-day ad, it will show it with this image first. It'll show it with this image first. It'll show it, with this image first. And based upon which image gets the most clicks, it'll start to weight that ad to only show that image first, right? So what's really cool is you add a couple different photos, and the one that has the most success will be the one that begins to get shown more often and often, throughout the length of the campaign. So just kind of want to point that out. The next section here is your DBA logo. You have to absolutely make sure that you include your DBA logo. It has to be branded so you can easily upload it. If you do not know where your logo or you do not have it, you can easily get it by clicking on Market Center logos here. This will take you to KW Connect, the logos and branding section. And all you have to do is scroll down just a little bit, and under the section Market Center logos, either type in your Market Center number and or your Market Center name. So for instance, one of the market centers that I'm a part of is 1113, or wait, it's actually 330, I believe. So here we have consultants, right? And I can download that. Simple enough. If you have ownership, you definitely need to include that as well. So you can check that box. If you notice the logos appearing in the lower right-hand corner, if I wanted the DBA to appear in the lower left-hand corner, I can adjust that and then it'll appear over here as well. Once I'm done selecting that, I can hit save. The other option we have is video. So for some of you who may have more higher end properties that you're listing, you probably have a video tour shot. And a lot of the video tour companies will in fact do what they call like a sizzle reel or a social reel or something. And basically it's a 15, 20, 30-second video cut of the entire 2-3 minute video tour set to some really trendy music of some sort that kind of can walk people through the house relatively quickly. If you have that and you're paying for that, you can upload that directly for the ad to draw attention to it. Ads with videos do get more interaction than ads without. So this is just kind of like a powerful little thing that you can kind of utilize and upload. There are some restrictions. So your video must be shorter than 10 minutes and it must be smaller than 250 megabytes. And it has to either be in the MP4 or M4V format. And we have some best practices here as well, where what we recommend, actually pretty short video, 15 seconds, and some different, recommendations from aspect ratios. So just kind of want to point that out, but we're going to go ahead, we're going to do images and we're going to go ahead and click save. So we've captured our media, we've done our text, and now let's talk about our Facebook settings. So Facebook settings, this is where we're going to do a couple things. This is where we select the business page that we're going to utilize. So what I like to do is point something out real quick. So notice how we have the generic KW logo here and we have Keller Williams sponsored, right? When we drop this down, this is going to bring up a list of all the different business pages that are associated with our Facebook account. So here you can see I have my KW agent demo page, right? Watch what happens when I select this. So it will actually change the name to my business page, and then it will bring over my logo from my business page. So if you have your logo uploaded to your Facebook business page and you have, you've set one up, when this ad shows up, in addition to, when they click on it, they'll know who is the listing agent, or if you have your logo or information regarding it, but it's actually going to be a part of the ad as well. So just kind of want to point that out. And then the next section is probably going to be the single most important thing you need to take into consideration when setting up a Facebook ad. You have a destination choice. Do you want this to go to a Facebook lead generation form or directly to a page, a website, or a landing page on a website, however you want to word it? The biggest difference between the two is this. When they click on the ad and it says Facebook lead generation form, this brings them to that Facebook form that generally has some of their information already filled out, right? This is pulling information from their Facebook account, so it can generally have their name, their first name, last name, whatever information they provide. And they can easily just click the button to continue on. Site or landing page will literally just take them to your website if they click on the ad. And unless you have some kind of capture technology, maybe a contact form on that page of some sort, then you would, then there's less chance of you capturing their information. If you're just sending them to your website, they can view the information and they do not have to fill out the contact information. They can actually bypass filling out the Facebook lead generation form, but we have more success capturing their information when we have this section enabled versus just sending directly to a page. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. We always recommend, it even says it here, do the lead generation form when you're trying to generate leads, right? When you're wanting to generate leads and contact people. Not every Facebook campaign is ideally set up for lead generation, right? You may be doing just brand awareness, right? You may be new to real estate and you may want to throw some money at the Facebook campaign and just pop up and say, hey, my name's Josh Boatman and I'm selling real estate at Keller Williams, right? You may do a little video that people can click on, right? Sometimes it's not about capturing their information. It's just about getting your name out. So you don't need to do the lead generation form. You can just have them go directly to the page. But probably for the majority of you, I would recommend this. It just gives us a better avenue of capturing that information for follow-up. The next section is going to be the button label. And this is what's going to appear below each image. So we have three options we can select from: learn more, sign up, and apply now. In all honesty, we see a lot more success with people just using the default learn more. Sign up and apply now a lot of times can turn people away from clicking on an ad because it implies some kind of commitment, right? You're applying now. What am I applying for? I don't want to apply for anything. Sign up. Oh, wait a minute. That sounds like I'm going to get a bunch of spam. I get enough spam as it is. Learn more is all about, hey, let me just show you and teach you some information. So you can obviously use whichever one you want, but learn more seems to be the one that we have the most success with. And then the next section here is actually going to be where they're going to go when they click on their ad, on your ad, right? When they click learn more, where do they go? Are they going to a specific website? Are you, sending them to, maybe you're advertising an event. So this could be the Eventbrite link that you're plugging in there for people to either sign up or pay for or whatever it is, right? So keep in mind, you want to make sure that whatever the ad says, the link takes them to that information. So said another way, you wouldn't want to advertise a listing, right? And then just send them to your homepage, right? You just wouldn't want to send them to joshuaboatman.kw.com, right? You wouldn't just want to send them to kw.com. You want to make sure that if they're clicking on an ad, specifically for a listing, that it's taking them to a page where there's more information about that listing. Kind of sounds pretty no-brainer, but just it's one of those things that you're going to find more success and more engagement going forward if the ad represents what they're clicking on. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. So you have two options here. If you are using a Keller Williams website and you've built out a landing page, which we talk about within our consumer training, how you can build specific landing pages for listings, you can choose landing page and you can try to locate that listing, that page within here, and then select the appropriate one. If you want to do something quick and easy and you don't want to build a landing page and you're utilizing, Keller Williams website, or if you have your own website that you're using and you have IDX search capabilities, one of the things I recommend is just going to your website, locating the listing. Now this listing is not active, so suspend your disbelief and let's pretend that this is the listing in question, right? We're going to pull up that listing on our website, and all we're going to do is copy this URL, and we're just going to paste it in, right? We could go through the trouble of building a landing page for this particular listing, which gives it a little bit nicer feel and flow. It's like an exclusive page for the listing versus just a search result, right? But this is still going to my page. This is still my information. If they ask any information, I am going to get the lead on it, right? This is my page. I'm driving traffic to my site, right? And we could easily go ahead and we could click save, right? But the one thing I want to point out here as well is we have this targeting section. So by default, when selecting a listing, it's going to target people that live within 20 miles of the city of that particular listing. So since that listing's in Troy, Ohio, it's going to show this listing is going to target those people within 20 miles. If I select the use custom settings, it's going to give me a little bit more, the ability to fine tune this just a little bit more. I can adjust the radius down to 15 miles. I can't go any lower. And the reason we can't go within 5 miles or 10 miles, we're stuck at 15 is because that is the restrictions Facebook has placed on us based upon fair housing. So that way, when we're targeting real estate, that we're not trying to be exclusive to a certain group of people. You could adjust the radius of the city, right? If you wanted to run an ad for some reason and say you wanted to advertise a listing, but you've utilized the referrals applet to see that, hey, people are moving to the Ohio area from Austin, Texas, you could advertise your listing in the Austin, Texas area if you wanted. A couple other options here. You have this ability to target your database. And what this allows you to do, when you check this, you can create an audience. And as long as you have 100 or more people within that audience, you can build an audience of your clients in your database and have this ad specifically show up on their Facebook. Now, the way that works is we absolutely prefer that you have their Facebook profile in command. There's a section where you can add that social media profiles. If you don't have that, we will attempt to use their phone number and or their email to connect to their Facebook account so we can do the targeting. Keep in mind, that only works if the email and phone number you have is the same one they used when they set up their Facebook account, right? So just kind of keep that in mind. But if you have 100 or more, you can specifically target them and have that ad pop up. Can't do it to 5 people, can't do it to 17 people, it has to be 100 or more. In addition to the radius that we can adjust, we also have the ability to start to target people based upon interest. So if I click add interest, this is going to bring up a list of all the different interests that you have within Facebook, right? So this is where Facebook has literally said, hey, you know what? There's over 6 million people that have showed interest in apartments.com. And how does Facebook do this? This is where the creepy part comes in, right? Whenever you're on Facebook, anytime you click on something, that ad has a category to it. And they know that, hey, did you click on something about acting? Well, you've shown interest in it. Even if you don't click on an ad, if you stop by and you stop scrolling, Facebook measures how long that ad was on that screen to measure your engagement. And that can even show that you have interest. So if you're looking to target someone specifically, based upon their interest, you can not only target within that, mile radius, but then just target specific people. So say you have the perfect house for a first-time home buyer. You may want to target people who are interested in apartments, have shown interest in an apartment guide, apartment list, apartments.com, and then hit save. So keep in mind the way this works. This is going to target anyone within 15 miles of Troy, Ohio, who have shown interest in apartments or apartment guide or apartment list or apartments.com. These are ors when they're in the same box. Now we have this option to narrow the audience. When we click narrow audience, this is going to bring up the same thing, but this allows us to be a little bit more specific. So let's say, I don't know. Let's just say we are also doing a cashback reward program, right? So we add that and we hit save. Now, the way this works is it's only going to target, and this ad's only going to show up to people who are within 15 square miles of Troy, Ohio, who have shown interest in apartments and cashback reward programs, apartment guide and cashback reward programs, apartment list and cashback reward programs, right? So when it's in 2 boxes, imagine in between, there's the word and. So it's going to say it must match apartment and this, apartment guide and this. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. And you can narrow that audience as much as you want. I would caution you from narrowing it too much. So great question, Aaron. So What Facebook does, what we're not allowed to do is we're not allowed to specifically target people based upon zip codes. We're not allowed to target people specifically based upon occupation. We're not allowed to target people specifically based upon their income, right? So if we were not advertising, a house, for instance, if we were a car dealership, car dealers can advertise people, they can advertise that Lexus to doctors and lawyers, or obviously real estate agents, because I know you guys make tons of money, right? So they could, they can be very specific. We can target based upon interest, because this isn't a demographic thing, right? This is just where someone has shown interest. Someone, whether no matter their occupation, could show interest in banking or investments or luxury or anything like that. Does that kind of make sense? Hopefully that helps. And that's another great point to really bring up the value of doing the campaigns from within Command versus Facebook, right? So Facebook has an ad manager that functions very similar to what you're seeing in front of us, right? What we're going through within this class, but it's a whole lot more complicated and a lot more buttons and checkboxes and things like that. But the beautiful thing about building the campaigns within Command, because of our official relationship with Facebook, and that's one thing we really want to talk about, right? Keller Williams is the only real estate company that has an official relationship with Facebook, right? Because of that, in this integration, we are making sure that as long as you don't violate anything crazy within the text section, right? You're not typing in anything weird or inappropriate, that your ad generally is always going to get approved. Because we take the heavy lifting of making sure that it's fair housing compliant based upon this section, we prevent you from doing something that could violate fair housing. So hopefully that makes sense. But you can be very specific if you want within the targeting. I would always caution to not be that specific sometimes, right? I mean, you start to limit your audience, then the more you narrow it, the less there is, right? But if we're good with this, we're going to go ahead, we're going to hit save. And then the next section here is the duration and budget. So this is where we decide when the campaign is going to kick off, how long the campaign is going to run, and what is the total budget we're going to spend on the campaign. So by default, we recommend a 10-day campaign and a budget of $1 per channel per day, right? So in theory, the minimum campaign we recommend is a 10-day campaign for $10 total, where it spends $1 each day buying ad space through Facebook. Now, by default, we give you, it's $30 over 10 days, because if you can imagine, the more you spend daily, the more your ad will show up, right? So keep that in mind. You can schedule ads in the future, right? But you're always going to notice that you can never have the ad run the day of. So I can't have this ad kick off today, June 9th. The earliest they can kick off is tomorrow, because once we submit the ad and we publish it, it does have to go through the Facebook verification process where they check the text and they check to make sure everything is good and nothing horrendous is going on. If we were running an Instagram ad, we would actually have the ability to split this between either Facebook and Instagram, right? So we could have $1 a day for Facebook, $2 a day on Instagram, depending on how we want to do it. And then we can go ahead and hit save. And then if we're ready to go, we would publish this campaign. I'm not going to publish it because this actually isn't a real listing. It's a fake page, but basically you would publish the campaign. And then starting tomorrow, it would go live. And as people interact with it and you get leads, you would get notified via the Kelly app if you have it installed, the notification bell within Command, as well as you'll start to receive some email notifications as well. It's a pretty simple process to do a Facebook campaign. One of the things that I really like about this is just not only how easy it is, but how you can kind of leverage this in multiple ways. One of the things that I think everyone should talk about, you should talk about how easy it is for you to do a Facebook campaign, because you could do one now that we're starting to see the world open back up a little bit, right? Eventually, open houses are probably going to become a thing again. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But you could do a campaign for your open house. And one of the things that I think would be very powerful, that when you're sitting in front of a potential seller and you're trying to win that listing, talk about Facebook campaigns. Talk about, hey, you know what? One of the things that I'm going to do when I get your listing and I list your property, I'm going to run a 10-day Facebook campaign, right? Where I'm going to advertise to everyone in this area, right? Within the blah, 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 blah. When we do an open house, I'm going to run a 3-day Facebook campaign before your open house, right? When you talk about those things, is the Facebook campaign, is it going to price sell the listing? Probably not. But what it does do is it gives you something that you are offering to that seller that the agent before them and the agent after them that are interviewing cannot offer, right? Most of your competition in your area probably do not have an easy process to do a Facebook campaign, right? So talk about it. It's all about differentiating you from the competition, right? Because in the end of the day, all real estate agents basically do 90% of the same thing, right? They put the house in the MLS. The house shows up on realtor.com. They hold an open house. They print out flyers, right? They maybe send out postcards, right? But you can start to utilize some of these cool features within Command to kind of differentiate yourself, right? Just another feather for your cap. So we got about 15 minutes in the class. I'm going to kind of walk through social posts next. But before we do that, any questions about setting up campaigns? I mean, it's kind of like a really easy step-by-step process, right? I mean, they've done an amazing job building this. Awesome. Well, all right. So let's jump back. Yes, I want to leave this. I'm not going to save it. So let's jump back and let's talk about, actually, you know what, real quick, let's jump into direct mail. This is actually a pretty quick process. So let's say we want to advertise, we have a new listing or we just sold something. How do we go about doing it? What's the quickest and easiest way to get those postcards out if we choose to do that? Well, we create a campaign. Let's do direct mail. It's going to pull up the same kind of modal that we had before, right? So this could be, the 123 Sesame Street sold, or we could do just listed, right? Whatever it is, right? We're advertising a listing, right? No matter what, even if it was a just sold, we're advertising the listing. We're advertising that we did something. We can either upload a custom template that we have built within Designs. Now, the one thing to keep in mind with that, if you build it in Designs right now, we don't have the ability to pull it directly from Designs. So you have to download it out of Designs and then upload it over here. Not that big of a deal, but just a little nuance. Or we can just use the default templates provided. That's what we'll do here. We'll click Create Campaign. It's going to say, hey, go ahead and pull up that listing. What is the listing that's sold or listed or whatever? So I'm going to go to my good old standby. So here we have our name and goal, just like before. Over here on the right-hand side, we have our template. So this is going to show us, what are we doing? Are we doing the 4x6, the 6x9? If we click on it, actually, no, we can select it, and then we'll have the ability to preview it once we start to build it out. So you can kind of figure out what you're doing. The listing details, you can come through in here and you can adjust this. So what are we doing? Or is it a just listed? Is it a just sold? Are we advertising a coming soon property? So let's say it's just listed. Here we can put in the 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, and then whatever our description is, right? We exceeded the character count. So let's back that up. All right, let's just get below that so we can save it. The listing photos. Now this is where you're going to run into some issues, right? Because what it initially tries to do, it pulls the image from the MLS. One thing for everyone to know about how MLSs store photos, a lot of times they store lower quality versions of the photos when you upload them, right? They're not keeping these high, nice definition, high resolution photos within the MLS. It takes up too much space. It's too much overhead on their part. So even if you upload this fully high quality photo to the MLS, they automatically downgrade the quality. Not every MLS does it, but the vast majority of them do. So it's going to sit there and it's going to say, hey, wait a minute, this isn't good enough for us to print. We're recommending something a little bit bigger. So this is where you're probably going to need to upload and replace that image. And you're going to want to find the particular image of the property. Maybe you have those high resolution images when the photographer took them, they sent them to you in your email. You're going to want to upload those instead. So here's just the dummy image I'm going to use just to kind of get past that screen. The next section here, of course, and actually, as you can see, we're seeing that being built a little bit over here on the right because we selected it. We're going to see this is, it put the image up there. Here, we're just verifying our information. And that's really all this is. It already has my info, has my photo, look at my crooked smile. Has my photo, has my first name, last name, email address, my phone number, all that good stuff. It's just having us always verify that what is listed here is what we want. So we can hit save. And then it's going to basically do the same thing for the market center. It's going to make sure, oh, look, it doesn't have my market center. I think we'll just do that. I think it's going to be, I don't know if that's the zip code. No, what is the zip code for that one? Is that one? Boy, I'm terrible. So let me just plug in a different address that I know has that zip code, so we can just verify it. Yep. So it's going to have us verify that, right? Just to make sure that all this information is correct. And this is just step-by-step processes because once, we're printing stuff, this is costing some money. So we want to make sure that we're doing the right things. Targeting. So this is where we do a couple different things, right? We can either target the entire database, right? Where we can send to our database and add contacts, or we're just doing a local targeting based upon proximity of the address. So here, since we selected that listing, grab that listing's address, right? We can hit save and then budget, right? This is where we're going to say, how many postcards do we want to send? Do we want to send 200? 59 cents. It's going to cost us 118 bucks. Maybe I only want to send 50 postcards. And what this is going to do, it's going to select automatically the nearest 50 addresses within the radius of that property, that target address, right? That is what it's going to do. It's going to be the 50 or the 75 closest houses near that. So we can go ahead and hit save. And then over here on the right-hand side, we also have QR code. So if we wanted to utilize a QR code and we wanted to have it print a QR code on the postcard, we could have it do that. And this is where we can have it go to a desired landing page. So if it was a just listed, and once again, I could pull either this, actually, you know what, I can't pull this. What I would, in this case, you have to actually build a landing page. We talk about building landing pages in the consumer class that we offer at the regional level. So if you're interested in that, make sure you attend that. But basically the idea is we're building a specific landing page that we can then use to capture and track any incoming leads if we want to utilize that. So pretty simple. So now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to configure the targeting. Actually, hold on real quick. Before we do that, we have the preview up here if we want to see kind of what it looks like. Right? So here we can see the image. Here it is, just listed, the price, back. Here's the information, the address, my info, all that good stuff, right? Just want to kind of point that out. And now we can configure the tracking. Yep. So now here's the biggest thing. When we start configure targeting, it's going to ask us if we want to create this campaign. We do, but keep in mind, the moment we do this, we cannot come back and make any changes to anything on this screen. So while the campaign's not launching yet, because now we're going to be very specific with who we want to send this to, you cannot come back and change the photo. You can't change the listing details. So be very, very specific and make sure that you're selecting the right things on this screen. So if we go ahead and we click yes, it's going to connect us with the real mailers. So now what you're going to see here on this screen, here are all the addresses that it's going to target, right? We selected that we wanted 75. We're seeing all the 75 addresses that it is in fact going to try to send this to. If for some reason I want to be specific and I like, you know what, I don't want that one on there, I can click remove. And now it's not going to go to that address and it's going to add another one, right? We can be a little bit more. If we want to increase that, we can increase that over here. So if we want to send it to more, we can. If we want to target specific properties, single families, you know, maybe something that only has, you know, 2 bedrooms, right? We can be very specific on what we're targeting over here on the left-hand side. And then if we always want, we can always have it send a copy to us, right? It's going to send it to the company address, which is our market center address, right? If we want a copy of it, when it goes out, we can do all that. We're going to click next, and then that'll take us through the additional steps of sending that out, paying for it and all that good stuff. One of the common questions we do get, how do I get a list of everything that this sent to, right? We were sending it to, at this point, 107, or maybe we'll just go back down to 50. We're sending this to 50 people. How do I get a list of this 50? Well, very, very, very simple. While you can't pull it within command, if you go to realmailers.com, realmailers, just like it sounds.com, they have support on there and you can email them and they'll ask you like the name of the campaign. And then they can provide you that information. Pretty simple. I know we kind of went through it relatively quickly, but I just kind of wanted to show you how easy it is to use to send out. You're just listed, just sold, you're coming soon, cards, right? All part of that advertising, right? You know, when you talk to that listing agent or that potential seller and you say, hey, one of the things that I'm going to do is not only are we going to run a Facebook campaign, but I'm going to send 50, 60, 70, 100 cards out to the entire neighborhood, letting them know that we just listed your property because, hey, a lot of times people know people that want to move into neighborhoods, right? You know, so we're going to make sure that everyone in the neighborhood knows that your property is for sale. So I just think it's kind of just another quick and easy thing that you can do. We got 3 minutes left. I quickly am going to jump into social posts just to kind of show you some of the nuances with that. So if we go into, actually, let's jump to social post itself. So social post is going to show us what we have upcoming. We have the ability to schedule posts on specific days in the future here. If we want to create something for June 6th or for Saturday, we can easily click this link here. When we create campaign, we can select social post. And this is just going to basically kind of walk us through, very similar to the social ad, right? This gets posted to our Facebook business page. So whatever it is we want to type. So let's say, you know, I think I had like one for Happy Easter. So we could sit there and say, hey, a Happy Easter. We can choose a photo from designs. So at one point I pulled one of the designs photos, right? So we can plug in this little Easter logo. And one of the cool things within our design, one of the cool things within Command are the KWRI marketing team. They're constantly, let's try it one more time. They're constantly designing upcoming social media graphics for each upcoming holiday that you can easily find within designs. We kind of talk about it a little bit in our designs class if we have time. But here you can easily select it. Same process, right? Have your logo left and right, whatever your text is. You can do multiple images if you want. You can upload a video if you want. And then you can just say, hey, when do you want to schedule this? Do you want to schedule this sometime in the future? So you can actually schedule your 4th of July post on 4th of July today, right? Just get it done, get it out of the way, and then it's going to get posted to your business page. Do you want to publish it immediately? Do you want this to go to your business page as well as, do you want this to also go on your Twitter? So it can go out on your Twitter as well. That's one of the unique things with the social post. You can post on Facebook and to Twitter at the same time. And then it's just a matter of scheduling the post. So let me go ahead and I'm just going to publish this thing immediately. And I'm just going to say publish post. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. Let's schedule it for Saturday. We'll schedule the post. We're going to schedule it. And now you're going to see here, Saturday, June 12th, I have a post that's scheduled. If I want to edit it, I can. If I want to delete it, I can. I can see on my timeline here that, hey, I have something scheduled. So that's kind of cool. And then the other thing to note over here on the right-hand side are the quick posts. So they have various quick posts that they've already kind of designed some graphics with some text that if you just quickly want to post something to your business page, just find one that's appropriate. You just kind of shuffle through them, click it. It's actually going to fill in the graphic, all the text, even like little emojis, right? Whatever makes the most sense, all the images, and then you can just schedule that post. They rotate through, they update these social quick posts fairly often, but it's just a quick and easy way for you to generate content to your business page. So with that said, that's kind of the down and dirty of campaigns within Command. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then just say, hey, any questions, concerns, criticisms, compliments?
Great job, man. Thank you. It was informative.
Hey, I'm glad to hear that, Aaron. If you guys have any further questions, definitely make sure you reach out to your MCTT within your market center. Those are your market center tech trainers. They do at the market center level what I do at the regional level. Once again, if you do not know who that is, reach out to your MCA and your TL and say, hey, who's my MCTT? And they should be able to point you in that direction. They are the tech and Command experts for the market center. And of course, if there's anything that I can ever do for you guys, please don't hesitate. Feel free to reach out. This video has been recorded and I'm about a week behind posting it to the Ohio Valley Region Facebook or YouTube channel. So if you want to go through and watch it again, feel free. And we have repositories of all of our previous recordings over the last couple months there as well. With that said, I hope you all found this informative. And if there's anything I can do for you, let me know. And go have a great rest of your day.